All right, we are back with the narrative Unsuppressed Gun Talk Radio. Sean and I have a very special guest in the studio today. His name is Randy Saltzman. Randy, how you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. How you guys doing?
We are doing well. We got a lot of ground to cover today, specifically revolving around a product that you guys have spearheaded that I don't have much experience with. Sean's going to get in more in depth about it. However, I have seen it, I have read about it, and I am a huge fan. So if that's even possible, that's kind of what's on the docket, and just take it and we'll run with it, so to speak. So, Sean, you want to do you want to let our listeners know what what kind of some atmospherics on Saltzman Gun Works as it pertains to you?
Yeah, let's talk about the background first. Let me say up front, these are people that I've personally known for a number of years. I don't know how many. They're the people that I've gone to fix all my screw ups, which I can break anything on any gun at any time just by looking at it. I am that guy. So I've needed their services for many years to help out with projects and things. Now, we all have our local guys that we like and we use because they're our guy. But one thing I want to stress is that these guys are not just that. They're extremely qualified, high quality craftsmen when it comes to gun. Things are done the old-fashioned way. Everything is straight. Everything is proper, and nothing comes out of there half-assed. So if you know about me, those that know me well, and if you read some of my stuff, I'm a gun snob. I'm a huge gun snob. And I hate when things break, and I hate when things don't work right. And when they're not right, I can't stand it. So I don't just trust anyone, because here's what I know. As soon as you hand a gun over to someone, they can create more problems for you in the end, and you're going backwards. You're starting at square one. So the fact that I trust them and have gone pretty much solely to you guys, I think it speaks highly, because I don't take that stuff lightly. Now, that being said, the long-range game and precision market is hot now, but you guys have been doing this for an extremely long time. It's nothing new to you guys. Precision is what you've done seriously. So, Randy, take us through what Saltzman Gun Works does on a basic level, and how you guys got started.
Okay. Well, basically, we started back in 1987. My dad was shooting competition, shooting NRA action pistol, and he was a general machinist in his regular job. And the gunsmiths that he had at the time were good gunsmiths, but he couldn't find people that would actually do what he wanted. So he was going back, taking his guns back to our place and tinkering with them a little bit and just fine-tuning them. And he ended up started winning a little bit and figuring out that general gunsmithing was kind of just the same as general machining. He was a machinist. He could do this. So he started working on his own stuff in the spare time, started shooting his own guns in competition, started winning more and more. And it's kind of just a snowball effect from there. Guys started paying attention to his scores and started seeing how he was shooting, and then started asking him to do work for them. So he started a business to keep the liability out of it. And so we started out with revolver work in 1911s first, and early 80s, or the late 80s, early 90s was pretty much all handgun work for action pistol and USPSA. For the most part, a lot of the guns that was winning in the state of Indiana was built by us, or built by Dad. So we started with that, and about mid-90s, Dad got an interest in the rifle game. So we contacted a friend of ours that has a gun shop down in Greenwood, and they were able to set us up with some military guys, some military snipers, and they kind of walked us through the basics of rifle building and the components that you need, and machines that you need to start building them. And Dad started hanging out with them and learning from them, and got to go down and start shooting with them. And that's kind of where we got into the long range atmosphere. It was learning from those guys how to shoot long range and what it takes as far as a rifle platform and a bullet platform to be able to reach out and hit targets at longer distances. So that was kind of the gist of how we got to where we are now. And,
Okay.
Obviously the rifle game wasn't as big as it is now. The last 5 or 6 years have been big for precision rifle, but back then you didn't really have all the high-end components like you have now and the specialty bullets and all that, so you had to make work what was there.
Right.
That's kind of what we learned to do.
Right. Now, how long ago was it that you got into rifles specifically?
It was probably about 93, 94. I was 13 when I started shooting rifles, and my rifle was a 223, and I think it was the second or third rifle Dad ever built. It was on a Remington 700 with a Hart barrel and a McMillan A3 stock. I think it was one of the first A3 stocks McMillan put out, I think.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about your clients, because I think that speaks highly of any company. There are a lot of people that can build guns. There are a lot of people that can put guns together, whether it's bolt action rifle and ARs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a whole nother story to do the smithing and the gun work that you guys do on that level. I mean, there's the things that you guys do are pretty incredible. But let's talk about the clientele that you can talk about, because I know you have F-class competitors that you build guns for. Yeah. There's some military background and LE, so you have extremely strong. So tell us what you can tell us about some of your clients.
Yeah, so the first thing you mentioned was F-class. Here in the last few years, we've really picked up on F-class shooters, F-class competitions. And
can I jump in? Can I interrupt here?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I am not I'm not in tune, I guess, with the competitive side of shooting. So, without going too much in detail, can one of you guys explain to our listeners what exactly F-class is?
Scott's a short gunner guy. He's a
door kicker.
Yeah, and that's his history. And I like that he admits that, hey, I semi-autos and that type of thing. That's what he does, and I'm trying to get him hooked on this long-range bolt action, and it's starting to kick in. But go ahead and tell us about the different competitions.
F-class is pretty much just long-range precision shooting. So they have the mid-range, which is I think 3, 5, and 600 yards, and then they have a long range, which shoots 8, 9, and 1,000 yards. So, and it's all for group and group sizes and scores of 1,000 yards. I haven't personally started shooting F-class yet. It's something I'm probably going to get into here in either this year or next year. But
and you have an F-class gun though. You have a
no, I don't have one personally yet. We've built several of them, but I haven't had time to build my own yet. So
understood.
It's in the works.
That's usually the way it works, right? You
yeah, exactly.
build everyone else's
You can't
guns,
ever get your own stuff.
You don't have your own. I get it.
You have all these things on the shelf, and you're like, "Damn, I want one of those."
Yeah. Well, we're always too busy fixing Sean's stuff. So.
It does take up a lot of time. No, so the F-class customer. Talk to us a little bit about their unique needs. Like, talk to us a little bit about the guns, what they entail, and if there's anything special that goes into an F-class competitor's gun versus some of the LE military things that you do or general shooting.
Right. The biggest thing about the F-class shooting is mainly the receivers. You want to use the high-end custom receivers that they're not really repeaters, they're single shot. So the bottom of the receivers are solid and makes the receiver a little bit stronger. Mm-hmm. A lot of them are using either McMillan stocks or a laminated wood stock, and high-end triggers, Bix and Andy triggers, which those are high-dollar triggers. Mm-hmm. And Sean and I was talking about it before, and those things you barely even touch, and they just go off. So
right.
I was shooting one of them back during the summer, and it was the first time I ever shot a Bix and Andy trigger, and I wasn't ready for the first round.
So the Bix and Andy triggers are for the seasoned shooter that they know what's going to happen when they
absolutely
even graze over that trigger.
Absolutely.
Okay, just for the listeners, just
right.
For our listeners that have a lot of disposable income, they're like, well, we want to get, a lot of people think lighter's better all the time.
Have a lot of disposable income.
Yeah. But anyhow.
So the F-class, no, not at all. So the F-class thing, so you're still being a little bit modest. You build for those people. Let's talk about winnings, victories with your guns. Talk to us about some of the record behind the things that you've built.
Yeah. There's a couple guys that locally have won state titles with our rifles. A few of them's gone out to the different national championships and shot out there. I don't remember offhand exactly where they placed, but I know they're always one of the higher ones to place. A couple of them went out to, I believe it was Wisconsin here recently, and shot up there, and they had great results up there. They went to Canada and shot. We've sent a couple of rifles over to Ireland. There's a couple of guys in Ireland using our rifles. Yeah, like I said, I can't really remember what the placement was in theirs, but they're winning. We're also doing the longest shot competitions, which is out to 2,000 yards. So they start at 1,000 yards, and as long as they're on target, I think they have to have 3 out of 5 shots on the target. Then they move back to the next yard line. And it's pretty much the last lone survivor, back at however far you reach back. Sometimes they only make it about 1,800 yards, but sometimes they make it out to 2,000. And it's whoever's got the best group at 2,000 then is the winner. And we've been having real good luck in that. Like last year, the top 3 guns were guns that we built. So
Nice.
it might have been first, second, and fourth or something like that. But, I mean, it was definitely top guns were guns that we built. So.
Gotcha. So let's move on to let's talk a little bit about the law enforcement side and what you do for law enforcement.
Yeah, we have several departments locally around the state that are using our rifles we built, and a lot of that had to do with my background being in law enforcement. That really helped us reach out to these people and
You're that
get
conduit.
clients. Yeah.
Speak that language.
Yeah.
Right, and that goes an extremely long way. Pardon the pun.
Yep.
How do without obviously going too deep into the weeds on on standards and having been working around law enforcement for as long as I have, not law enforcement, but there's an exorbitant amount of standards and meticulousness that goes into guns with police officers. Your rifles that you would build for an extreme long range shooter compared to a police officer that sets up in their final firing position, that's not going to be shooting 2,000 yards, just for that liability's sake. How does what you do change from one platform to the next?
Really, as far as the actual machining process, we don't change any of the processes we do. All of our rifles, tactical rifles, you could take them out and shoot competition with them. We don't change anything as far as how we set stuff up in the machines or our tolerances or anything like that. We still set everything up the same way. The only thing really different between the competition rifles and the tactical side of it is just components. You don't have the higher end components. We still use the same barrels, high end barrels, but a lot of times they're on factory receivers that we're blueprinting and redoing. Just trying to accurize the gun and make
just
it a lot
taking
better.
that platform and making it accurizing it.
Right.
Okay. Not that OEM guns are not accurate, but you make them more accurate.
Right.
Okay.
There's tolerances and everything, and when you're a major manufacturer, you're looking at getting product out, so your tolerances aren't as tight as somebody that's single building rifles. So we cut down on the tolerances and make everything tighter fit.
Okay.
Let's talk a little bit about. So we covered law enforcement, military. I don't know how deep in the woods we want to get on that, but I'll take your no. All right. Read between the lines.
No,
people.
no,
We're
not talking
they build
about that.
special guns for very special people, which
Yeah,
again,
it's not that we can't talk about it. I mean,
yeah.
it's just I'm not one of those people that singles out groups that we've done work for.
Yeah.
We've done work for top tier groups. Not really to say war guns, but a lot of their personal guns and stuff. I know that some of them's probably ended up in various situations, but I'm not one of those guys that's going to start throwing out groups.
On that, for guys that are sitting there thinking, yeah, right, Saltzman they build for for Dev Group and for CAG or Delta or whoever. Like, again, it's not that what anybody does is super duper top secret, but just know that the success rate in the kinetic operations that are going on across the planet right now are being supported by some of the best vendors and best companies that our industry has to offer.
well said.
So, with Randy and their company, concentrating on quality control, and like he just talked about, the tight tolerances and everything that goes into their guns. Not that we're being cryptic or being overly secretive. It's just giving that professional courtesy to the guys that are using these guns. And the bad guys that are on the other end of those muzzles, they can smile and wait for that flash. So we'll move on from that. So, from most people in the military realm, thanks, man, for putting that same quality control into those products that you do, and as well from obviously the law enforcement side.
Thanks.
So
yeah, no problem, man.
Let's talk about some of the challenges specifically in the precision world right now. It's popular. It's more popular than ever.
Came out of nowhere.
Well,
I was like, man,
it's always been there doing what it does.
I like this door kicking stuff, man. I like this up close and personal. And Sean's like, bolt gun this, bolt gun that, 2 mile, 4 mile.
Yeah,
whoa.
Ask him where he found out about bolt guns.
Yeah,
he's told me.
He was all about this AR
challenges
platform.
with the AR-15 or the AR platform doing what I need it to do or want it to do have pushed me in a direction I swore I wouldn't go. Remember,
Yeah.
I've done that a lot, and I've admitted that several times on here. But talk to us a little bit about the challenges in precision rifles building now, as far as, you see certain things going on. Do you see trends that maybe shouldn't be happening? Do you see things kind of being pushed out that aren't necessary? You guys have you guys have a very unique old school approach to things. So just kind of expand on that.
Yeah, I really don't know where to go with that. The biggest thing I've noticed is, just different calibers coming out. It seems like everybody's trying to race to a new caliber that is trying to magically fly, to outer space and back. I don't know. Some of the older cartridges, the 308, the 301 mags, I mean, they work. I mean, we've been shooting them things a distance for forever. It just seems like everybody's trying to get, that little bit more edge or that little bit more velocity out of rounds. And, that's kind of the biggest thing I've seen, is nothing really stays the same as far as calibers. So you're always having to change tooling and stuff.
Let's talk a little bit more about the caliber thing. So 308, 6.5. Mm-hmm. It's, for whatever reason, it's a heated debate. I don't even understand why. Right. So you got a new guy coming in right now. Maybe he's been shooting a couple years. He's shot some buddies' guns, and he's like, now I want to step up to a nice custom-built rifle. Mm-hmm. And he's going to last him probably the rest of his life. 308, 6.5, do you have an opinion? Do you guide them? What do you do?
We really don't. Really, we'll build whatever they want. I mean, we'll give them a little bit of advice, as far as telling them, kind of what the trends are right now, how stuff's performing, and, kind of just let them make their own decisions. We're not really there to try to push anybody one direction or not.
But if a guy asks you, like, which one do I do? What do you say?
Right. Honestly, right now we've been, basically what we say is right now we've been building a lot of 6.5 Creedmoor, and that usually does it. They usually want the 6.5 Creedmoor just because that's what everybody else has. As far as my personal opinion, I'll shoot either one. And to me, it doesn't matter. I've been shooting 308 long enough now that I kind of know it in and out, and I hand load all my loads anyway. So I'm trying to push the 308 as far as I can anyways. So, my preference, I really don't have one. It seems like law enforcement, they're sticking to the 308s, and I think that's just because, it's kind of been tried and tested in court, and they don't want to have to go through the whole case law stuff again, for using a new caliber. So, well, and they don't really need the distance anyways. I mean, most of the time you're not shooting long distance in law enforcement unless you're in a school, so.
After we published that article, Sean wrote that article that we put up on our site not too long ago, a good friend of mine who's in Africa, actually right now, and was in Africa then, he sent me a message saying, how do I buy this? And what caliber do I buy it in? And he's and he'll tell you, once you get him on the phone, he'll tell you, I am not, he loves guns. Mm-hmm. He loves to shoot, and he's of the special operations background. Not anymore. but he is a gun go boom, gun good guy. And he'll tell you that.
That's all you need.
He'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So that's going to be one of the questions that he's going to have for you. What caliber? What do you think? And so if he's listening to this, which I'm sure he will because he's subscribed to the podcast. So to that guy, his end use is going to be taking this rifle out in his home area and shoot it at distance that, and I don't know what his home range is, but let's just say 900 to 1,000 yards.
Mm-hmm.
What caliber? 6.5 or 308?
Is he just going to be target shooting, or is he going to hunt with it too?
Nope, he's going to target shoot.
Probably 6.5.
Okay. All right, there you go, bud.
There
you
we
know
go.
you know who I'm talking to.
That's right. Let's talk a little bit about the machining background, just its importance. Again, you guys have an old school approach. Ray does an incredible job, and I've watched him work. Obviously, a lot of stuff just I'm learning more about it now, but obviously went past me for a long time. What is the importance of his background in machining and how it applies to what you guys do building guns?
Well, the biggest thing about his background is, he didn't just start off working on guns and then trying to be a machinist. He started off the other way around. He started off being a machinist, so he knew how to run the machines, set up the machines. He knew the tolerances. He knew how to, indicate the barrels into the lathes. So that's the biggest thing, is just having the knowledge of running the machines. And that's kind of where I'm at now is, I've always ran machines ever since I was about 8, 9 years old. The machines were there. That was part of Dad's thing. Was, you're going to learn how to run these machines. At the time, to be honest, I wasn't that interested in doing it, but it's my dad, so of course I'm going to do it. And now I'm glad I did, obviously, because now where I'm at, I'm starting to take over, for Dad and trying to grow and expand the business. I have to know that stuff. So it just made it a lot easier for me as transitioning. But going back to him, it's a lot easier when you know how to do something, that requires precision and, just the know-how, to, instead of building something and then trying to figure out how to build it. The same way as building a house. You don't just go buy a bunch of lumber and some nails and try to bang stuff together and be like, hey, why is my house not square? Why is the door not opening?
Right.
I'm not a big 90-degree angle fan anyways, so you can build whatever house you want for me, man.
Let's go on to one of the reasons why I wanted to have Saltzman in here. I want to talk about a gun that I had a chance to review for a short period of time. Still have it. Still need to do some more extensive testing. But you have your own chassis now.
Right.
And it has some unique features. So I will let you take it from here. Go ahead and tell all the listeners out there about what you have.
Okay. So, Sean was mentioning our chassis. It's, the R2 chassis. It stands for Recoil Reduction chassis. It is patent pending. So the biggest thing about the chassis, and I'll go into more about the chassis here, the biggest thing is it does have a recoil reduction system built into it.
And what's that look?
So recoil reduction, what that will do is that'll take out a lot of the recoil, felt recoil from the rifle. So, a lot of times guys are putting muzzle brakes or suppressors on, trying to lessen the recoil on the shooter. And this actually has a mechanism in the buttstock that if you don't have a muzzle brake, or even if you do have a muzzle brake, it takes a lot of that absorbed recoil. So it's not pounding, like a 300 Win Mag. If you shoot a 300 Win Mag, anybody that's shot a 300 Win Mag without a muzzle brake knows that they only want to shoot about 2 rounds, and then they're done.
Right.
And I personally experienced that when I was younger. Dad first getting rifles, 300 Win Mag. We learned real quick you want a muzzle brake on it.
Right.
So even with our chassis, if you don't have a muzzle brake and you're shooting a 300 Win Mag, I guarantee you it's not going to hurt, just because of that recoil reduction system in the buttstock.
So it makes shooting
more
larger calibers more pleasurable.
Right. And even the lower calibers, like 308s. Everybody's like, 308s don't kick. Well, that's true. But if you go to a class...
That's absolutely not true.
That's not
well,
true. You
I don't know
shoot
what
enough
you're
of them.
talking about.
Exactly. And that's where I was going. If you go to a class and you're putting 500 rounds of 308 through in a week,
right?
Usually the shooters we see about the second or third day, they're starting to get sore. And if you start to get sore, the next thing you start doing is jerking, flinching, and that affects your groups.
Well, so for my day job, I work overseas and as an instructor, and one of the subject matters that I teach is moderately ranged marksmanship.
Mm-hmm.
And our target audience, even after we give them scope theory and familiarization and zeroing, they're like, "Oh, teacher, no more,
Right.
shoulder hurt. Maybe we take a day off, let
Right.
our shoulders heal." And they're shooting 308s, 168 grain.
Yep.
Federal Premier match.
And they're shooting gas guns
They're
too,
shooting
right?
gassers too. Yeah. So, there is something to be said with quantity of ammo going out the business end of a rifle. So you take that into a bolt gun without that recoil reduction system, you're gonna have a bruise.
Yep.
Regardless. I mean, everything short of 223 or 556. Yeah, but there's not a designated marksman on the planet that's actually being a sniper, a designated marksman, whatever classification you want to put. That's not shooting those rounds with that higher kinetic energy on impact,
Right.
on those terminal ballistics. So, anyways, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. To lead more into that, I see it all the time. A little bit more about my background is, I did 10 years in law enforcement. Recently got out to start working with Dad full time in the shop. But during my time as a law enforcement, I was a sniper instructor. So, and I'm still active with the police academy here that's local that has a sniper school. And that's kind of where I got it from, was, being on the line, watching the guys, during a 1 week school, 2 week school, and just realizing that they're just literally getting pounded by their rifles. Exactly. A couple of days later, they're like, ow, So I'm just like, there's got to be a way to fix this. I remember.
I love shooting, but this sucks.
Exactly. So I remember being younger, going back to kind of like shotguns. Way back then, I remembered shooting a friend of ours shotgun that had a recoil reduction system on it. I didn't remember who made it or anything like that, but I remember there was one on there. So I started talking to Dad more about it, and we figured out whose it was, and kind of looked into it a little bit. And that's kind of where the idea came, where it's like, if they put them on shotguns years ago, why hasn't anybody thought of putting it on rifles?
Right. So tell us about that recoil reduction system that you're using on your chassis. Let's talk about a little bit about the mechanics, whatever you can. Obviously, we don't want to know secrets. It's patent pending anyway.
Right.
So tell us, how it works, the travel. Just give us some more details on it.
Right. The biggest thing is, travel. Everybody starts hearing, when you got parts moving on a gun, the biggest thing they think about is getting hit by the scope, because a lot of times guys have been hit by scopes and they know that's not pleasant.
But it's funny.
The old snake bite.
Especially after you warn them.
It is funny. Luckily, I can say, knock on wood, that I have not personally experienced it, but I have seen it.
It's happened.
So,
it's happened.
I obviously have a great background in rifles and understand that, you got to keep your eye away from the scope. You got to keep your eye relief. So the travel on the recoil reduction system is only about 3/8 of an inch, a little bit less than that. So it's not far enough that you're going to get, bashed in the face by your scope under recoil. You shoot this, you don't have to worry about the gun coming back on you. So I don't really want to get into how it operates, as far as the mechanics of it, but I'm just going to say that, it really does work. Everybody that I've had shoot my rifle or shoot my chassis, I always stand behind them now and watch and just kind of giggle as they're laying down, because after they shoot that first round, it's always the same reaction. Mm-hmm. And Sean had the same reaction. They just turn around, their mouths open, their eyes are real big, and they're just like, holy crap, I can't believe
so I
that.
shot. Now, I'm a recoil sissy. Up and
so
down.
am I. That's why I built the chassis. I hate recoil.
It. Yeah.
I hate recoil.
And you guys put me on a Win Mag without a brake.
Yep.
And I'd never shot a Win Mag without a brake. I'd only shot pretty much gas gun Win Mags up until then anyway, because I was afraid to shoot the Win Mag, especially in a bolt action. So that's where I started with theirs, Win Mag without the brake. And my recollection was it was pretty much like a 308 without a brake, which is a significant decrease in recoil.
Yeah, with the Win Mag without the brake on our chassis, you still have a lot of the push. You can't get rid of the push. I mean, that's just part of the physics. You can't get rid of the push, but you don't have that hard slapping in the shoulder that's gonna hurt.
That sharp snap.
Right.
Now, is this adjustable? Meaning, I know that you said there's so much distance that it travels, but is there a tension adjustment or anything on it, or is it just is what it is?
Yeah, no, there's no adjustment as far as the tension of the actual recoil. That being said, I mean, if we start getting into heavier recoil on rifles, I can adjust it myself
Spring
to
rates and
that,
things
but
like that,
it's nothing that
absolutely.
the average shooter would be able to get in to adjust. The only adjustability to the actual recoil part or the butt part is the butt pad will slide up and down, so you have the movement up and down for shooting prone or shooting off a bench. We are working on a length of pull adjustment right now. It's going to probably have to be a spacer type system, like McMillan and Manners, all of them are using, and mainly because of how the recoil reduction system is actually built into the stock. You can't pull the mechanism out of the stock and still expect it to work. So
Gotcha.
you got to figure a way to move the recoil pad backwards instead of the whole mechanism. So.
What else about the chassis? You built this chassis like a lot of guys do. You were addressing challenges that you found in the products that you used.
Mm-hmm.
So is there anything else on the chassis system that's unique that you tried to address in yours?
The chassis itself, pretty much a standard chassis. It does pretty much the same thing everything else does. It's a folder. The one thing about being a folder is I've noticed a lot of the chassis, they don't lock when you fold them. So you always have that floppy buttstock that's flopping around when you're trying to put it in your backpack.
Floppy butt stock.
Floppy buttstock.
Floppy. I like that.
Nobody
What
likes
is it?
anything floppy.
Nope.
Floppy butt stocks.
Especially when you're trying to put it in your backpack, or you're actually working with it and you're toting it around and the thing is falling down and getting caught in the weeds. So it's got ours has a lock on it, so you fold it around to the side of the stock and it locks. And it's just got a simple mechanism that you just push a button and it unlocks. So it's not like it takes a long time to unlock. The actual weight of it is about 5.5 pounds, so it's one of the lighter chassis out there. That was one of the biggest things, was wanting to shave some weight wherever I could, but still keep rigidity. We do have two different forearms. The first one is a tube style. It's made out of carbon fiber. It does take any M-lock accessories, and it also has a night vision rail fastened to the top of it, so you can still run night vision if you need to. The second one is an aluminum forearm, but it's more like a standard buttstock. So it's kind of more of or not buttstock, but standard forearm on a regular rifle. So, a lot of guys don't like the tube forearm, so we came out with just a regular forearm, but it still also has capabilities to run night vision on top of it if you want to. You just have to get a hold of Badger Ordnance and get one of their embedded front rails, and it bolts right to it.
You mentioned Badger. So are there companies that you like to do business with as it pertains to accessories? Or is it more or less like, hey, man, we like how this works, how it, in the fit and the function aspect, and then you reach out to them? Or is there, and I'm not asking for like contractual like OEMs, but
right.
People that you would prefer, or what's that decision-making process look like, I guess, is the better part of that question.
Really how we go about things is, just our opinions or our testings on how we've used the stuff. If we've used some products and we don't think that they're up to par, then we're not going to put it on our rifle. So
Nice.
That's kind of what we do. Badger, obviously one of those companies that they make high-end stuff. So we always go to Badger for a lot of components.
So it's not just a dollars and cents thing.
No,
If it
absolutely
works.
not. Right. If it works, I don't care how much it costs.
Awesome.
Any future plans for your chassis recoil reduction system? Anything that you can reveal, or are you just trying to refine what's going on now, or you got some other things you're working on with it?
No, the chassis for the most part is done, finished. We got a few of them being made right now. There's always stuff. You look at different products on the market, you'll notice that when they first come out, there's always little cosmetic changes or little changes here or there, between the first generation to the fifth generation, or whatever. There's always something that you're going to refine on, and I'm sure that ours is the same way. Just as far as cosmetics, I really don't see any major changes or anything coming up with the stock. It's already fully functional and takes accuracy international mags, and it has an adjustable cheek, so it's fully adjustable, lightweight, easy to use. There's not a lot of different edges or corners or anything you're gonna get caught on or cut on or anything like that. It's all nice and rounded over. So
outside of the chassis, do you have any other products that you offer right now that are specifically, from your branding or that you're working on, or anything that you can reveal?
We have our own muzzle brake line. I know what Sean's referring to. He's trying to get me into another type
Bait
of
and switch.
No.
He's trying to get me into another thing that I've been working on. I will say this.
I'm talking about muzzle brakes. No, I'm not going to lead you down that path.
No.
Leave that alone.
It's good. I am working on a something to help shooters that are using standard style stocks. Let's just say that. So,
Nice.
Like
other
fiberglass stocks or
right.
or whatever.
Okay.
It won't help out on a factory stock. I'll say that.
Gotcha.
But any aftermarket stock, it should be able to help out same way our chassis is.
Gotcha. No, I was actually pertaining to some of the muzzle brakes.
Right.
You guys make a great muzzle brake. It works well. I didn't know if that's something you guys are offering at this point or looking to. Or
Yeah, we're always selling muzzle brakes. We get a lot of jobs. People is always calling up to have barrels threaded and muzzle brakes put on. We are looking to refine our muzzle brake a little bit and making it self-indexing. Right now, the only way we can index it is to either offer a washer system, or not really a washer, but peel washers, or what we prefer is just stick it in the machine and let us index it ourselves, and that way we can assure that the bore is perfectly aligned with the barrel and the threads are aligned with the bore, and all that good stuff. So
okay, let's talk a little bit about shooting from your perspective, the actual process of shooting. You shoot relatively well. It hurts to say, because I'll never hear the end of this. But I witnessed that day you guys put together. You put a new Lilja barrel on your 308.
Right.
That was your duty gun.
Yep.
And two groups into it. What was that group size that you shot?
yeah, I think it was 0.17.
Christ almighty,
point
Mod.
one
He's
one or
he's a
something
he's
like
a
that.
decent shooter. I
it was
think
a
were your words.
Brand new.
I've-
I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah, there's
Wow.
I know everybody has their thing, but with me, I don't have a lot of time, so I don't break in barrels. I just take them out of the machine, and they're either going to shoot it or not, in my opinion. So
There you
I just
go.
take it out there
Hell
and shoot
yeah.
it.
Hell
it's
yeah.
like a car, you're not going to break in a car. You're just going to go out there and drive the crap out of it. So
Yeah.
I just go out there and shoot it. So yeah, that group, I don't know, was probably 0.11, 0.17.
Yeah, we've got photos. That was
it's got the picture of it.
Yeah,
so.
I actually autographed the.
Yeah, I made him
He
witness
made
it.
me
sign it.
witness.
Everybody's always like, "Oh
Sign
yeah,
it.
you just went down to 50 yards and shot
No,
it." So I always
it
have
was-
witnesses now.
Yeah.
It's very upsetting.
So you just mentioned breaking in barrels. Big debate of, the part of the operational stuff that I still occasionally delve into. A big debate on whether or not brand new guns these days, modern guns, right?
Mhm.
Guns straight from the factory.
Right.
Do they need to be broken in or not?
You talking about bolt guns or ARs?
Gas guns.
Gas guns. I would say as far as the actual gun itself, it's going to take some time to wear in. It's it's a moving mechanical part. Everything's got
I'm saying barrels.
the barrel,
barrels.
just the barrel.
With it being chrome lined or,
AR barrels, I typically see that they do take a little bit of time to come in. So
but
I don't know if that's just
as it
because of the
pertains
barrel as far as the profile of it, or if it's actually how
this
it's
coming in
the
the same
breaking
as a
process.
break-in though?
right.
Shoot one round, let it cool down, punch the bore. Shoot one round, let it cool down, punch the bore, so on and so forth. For
Because
200
I
rounds.
asked this question to so many barrel manufacturers,
Right.
gun manufacturers, like something that takes time. And I'll speak about some AI barrels that I've shot, because they come in as test guns for articles and things, specifically testing suppressors. The group size from round 1 to 74 were like 1.2.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think, okay, well that's okay. At like round 75.4.
Right.
And then that was it. And there was no cleaning involved. It was literally just we got to this round count and everything changed
Yeah,
significantly.
everything kind of settled in.
So is it a break-in process or is it just the barrel coming in?
Well, with that being said, go back to what you witnessed with my rifle when, round 11 through 15 shot that group.
Right. Right.
I think it's just kind of the material that's used, the machining processes, and, just the barrels themselves. I think everything's different. I will say on ARs, I would probably break in an AR barrel a little bit more than I do a rifle barrel, precision rifle barrel. Precision rifle barrels, at least barrels that we've machined,
Right.
I don't break them in. I just take them out.
Let's
and shoot
talk
them.
about
Now,
American
the
Barrel
ARs,
Company.
The ARs, I'll break them in a little bit. As far as shooting 10 rounds out of them and cleaning it after every 2 rounds. I don't do it after every round just because it takes too long.
Right.
Right.
Every couple of rounds, clean it and shoot it. But
Well,
bolt
it's like
guns,
that-
bolt guns, I just shoot them.
That build that's on the Brass Tacks website,
Mhm.
brasstacks.com, the best build ever. That's the American Barrel Company
Right.
barrel. We didn't break that
We
in.
didn't do anything.
We
with
just-
that. Just put it in and shot it.
Boom,
Yeah.
right out. 0.3 with Hornady 147s.
Yeah,
Right
we
out
shot
of the
the
gate.
140s also.
But I don't want to get off track, but that gun shot 0.6 across 7 or 8 different ammo brands. That was the average, is 0.6 from
Yep.
hunting to, the ELD type bullets. It shot everything well.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that goes back to how the barrels are manufactured and how they're machined. Not as far as how we install the barrels, but just how the rifling is done. I think that says a lot. Have a straighter bore. I think you're gonna have a straighter flight path. So
Let's talk a little bit about fundamentals of shooting, and let's talk just kind of expand on the importance. We have so many people that are making this move towards precision shooting. I have frustrations with it and things. You tell me when I'm okay. Your body's not straight. These different things. Let's talk about the importance of those mechanics on the shooting process and how you utilize them and what you do when you shoot.
yeah, mechanics is a lot to everything. Just like playing baseball, you got to have the right mechanics or you're not gonna hit the ball. Same thing with shooting. The biggest thing with shooting is you got to have good body positioning. You got to be pretty much right behind the rifle. Everybody has this old thinking or old way of, they're laying off to the side of the rifle. Well, what that does is under recoil, the rifle pushes back into your shoulder. And then if your body's not directly behind the rifle, your shoulder will push off to the side. So then you get a lot of left or right movement just by your body moving. So you want to keep your spine in line with the bore of the rifle, so you're right behind the rifle.
So with that too is like what I tell people is if I could put a rod
Mhm.
through the muzzle, that rod is going to go straight down through the muzzle, all the way through the gun, through whatever shoulder
Yep.
you're dominant on, through whatever butt cheek is right behind that shoulder, right down the path of your leg and out your heel.
Right.
So having that straight line support, having that straight line axis, you're not putting any more input into the gun inadvertently. Like you said, physics, recoil, straight back.
Yep.
If you're cocked out behind your gun to the left or to the right, you're putting that left or right input into that gun. It's going to obviously throw your
Right.
shot placement off.
Right.
So
Yeah, you got to stay behind it.
all right. So are you a dig your toes into the ground guy or lay your feet flat?
I'm kind of the dig your toes in a little bit, and that's just mainly because
So you're from the army train of thought.
yeah, well, not really, because I learned from guys that like a lot of water. So
Right.
mainly is because I can't lay my feet flat. So
Okay.
you got to do whatever your body will allow you to do. So I just kind of dig in. I don't really push towards the rifle. I don't load my bipod a lot. There was a lot to put into that, several years ago. But
again, that's instead of that left and right input, now you're putting
yeah, you got
up and down input.
It's all stresses. Any stress you put on a rifle, you have to put on a rifle every time. Otherwise, you're not going to get the same result.
Yep.
So why add stresses to it when you're trying to eliminate stresses out of the rifle by building a rifle to different tolerances and bedding a rifle to take stresses out of the gun, but yet you're going to lay behind the gun and put stresses on the gun, whether it's with your cheek or with your grip or whatever.
I think too with from the tactical standpoint, what a lot of guys, I think they blur those lines between gas guns and bolt guns as it pertains to precision shooting. So we have somebody who's historically been an entry guy,
Mhm.
up close and personal, that's been running an M4 or whatever other gas platform they've been running, and then they come to a sniper course, and now they want to manipulate that precision gun in the same manner that they work their entry gun. So, more so with bolt guns than with gassers. with gas guns, we're pushing, and we have that hard, or that extremely solid, almost to the point of putting too much into the gun, as it pertains to having the butt stock in your shoulder, for the simple purpose of if you're not tight into that gun, you are significantly increasing your chances of a malfunction. Right.
Yep.
There needs to be some rigidity to that recoil. Towards a bolt gun, so long as you work that action and you have another round in the chamber, if you pull the trigger, pending mechanical failure of the gun or that primer, it's going off.
Yep.
So, to your point of not putting anything into the gun that doesn't need to be in there, like we'll tell guys that are laying down behind bolt guns overseas all the time, like with a pistol, we tell them you're not gripping the pistol with anything more than a firm handshake.
Right.
That's not like that with a bolt gun.
Nope.
You are being finesse rather than, it's like point motor skills and gross motor skills.
Right.
Like you are being finesse with a bolt gun, and that's what a lot of people, they get discouraged. And I did too when I first started getting into shooting bolt guns. Is like, I'm trying to muscle this thing, gorilla grip it, and I don't need to.
No, you don't. Less is more on a bolt gun.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that goes miles when it comes to accuracy and your recoil reduction system too. I mean, you shoot a big bore caliber, somebody that doesn't have that experience, you put them behind a 300 Win Mag without a muzzle device, they're going to get the shit kicked out of them.
Absolutely.
And might turn them off forever.
Yep.
To whereas, like you said, making that shooting experience more pleasurable, yet being hyper efficient and effective in what they're trying to do, you might have just gotten your next long range shooter.
Right.
For life. So
let's talk a little bit about your dream rifle. All right. So you don't have your dream gun yet. You're going to build a gun from scratch. What are you going to put together?
As far as component-wise?
Everything.
What am I
You're going to build your gun for you with all the years of experience you guys have, all the builds you've done for other people. What are you going to put together?
Well, it's going to start with Defiance action. And reason being is just they seem to be one of the most rigid receivers out there.
Okay.
The tolerance is not that they're any better than anybody else's aftermarket receivers or custom receivers, but they seem to be more consistent, and that's what you want is consistency. And just aesthetic-wise, I just everything about them, I like them a little bit better than everything else.
So Defiance action, all right.
Be a McMillan stock. Probably stay with the A5 just because that's one I'm used to.
Okay.
Just me.
All right.
If it's if I'm going away from the traditional stock, it'd probably be my chassis. I'm not trying to promote my own stuff. I'm not that type of guy.
Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't I? I mean, I'm going to promote my stuff, but at the same time, I'm not going to be a guy that's saying, you got to use my stuff only.
Right.
My stuff's the only
that
stuff
makes
that works.
sense.
So,
And
I'm
we
trying to give both ways.
That.
Yeah, if I'm going to run a chassis, I'll run my chassis. But if I'm going to run a regular style stock, it'd be McMillan stock. Manners are good stocks, but I prefer them.
You still prefer a traditional stock over a chassis. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay.
And it's more. I think for me, it's more just because that's what I was used to. That's what I grew up,
Right.
using. Chassis didn't really come around till about 8
I mean,
years
they didn't
ago.
get big till
Yeah,
Yeah.
So, like I said, my very first rifle was a 223 on an A3 McMillan. So,
Gotcha.
I'm used to McMillans. They just feel normal to me. It's like your pillow. You don't just get rid of your pillow and pick up something else.
No matter how many slobber stains are on it,
Exactly.
you don't get rid of that pillow.
You can
Wow.
always put it in the washer.
Wow. Slobber stains. I thought you were going to go somewhere else stain wise.
I don't know where you going. Okay, right, so McMillan stock, and
McMillan
then
stock.
all right, keep going. We still need barrel, trigger.
Yep. Barrel would be a Bartlein or even a Lilja. We've been having real good luck out of both, so I really don't have a preference there. And literally, it's whichever one I could get the quickest is what I would use.
I've been Lilja obsessed since that gun that when you shot that group.
We've
I
been
still
using a
don't
bunch
have
of them.
one, but that absolutely blew me away.
Yep, man. must be a reason why the military uses them. So
Yeah.
All right, and that's not a secret. You can go on their website and look at a 30 cal barrel, and you'll see it listed on there. So you'll be able to figure out pretty quick which one it is.
Okay. So Lilja or Bartline. Twist, did you say twist?
No, twist.
Because we haven't
caliber,
talked about chambering yet.
Caliber probably 300 Win Mag, and just the reason is, it's an easy round to get a hold of. It's versatile. You can shoot up close or you can shoot long distance with it. So I'm not too big in going out and fire forming cases and making special cases and whatnot. I mean, yeah, you can get better, but just a good overall cartridge is probably the Win Mag. Trigger, I really like.
I already know what you're gonna say.
Oh yeah, which is it?
Trigger Tech.
Yeah. All
right.
I really like their stuff right now. So putting out good stuff. Timneys are good, but I don't think they have the pull that the Trigger Techs have.
Okay,
so
that's fair.
And I definitely put one of our muzzle brakes on, especially being a Win Mag.
Optic.
So, optic, it'd probably be a Night Force. Which model of Night Force? I really don't have a preference. I mean, it'd be NXS or above. I just honestly they're what I could afford. So you have to go finance a car to buy an optic these days, but they are what they
things
are.
Have changed. Yes.
You don't have a good optic, you're not going to hit on target. So that's another thing. Optics.
So you're saying that the red line Walmart brand type optics are not what you would put on a reliable long distance gun?
Absolutely not. No. And I'm not trying to bust anybody's bubble there or hurt anybody's feelings, but optics are just as important as the platform that you're shooting. If you can't see the target, you can't trust the adjustments in the scopes, then you're not going to be successful at longer distances. And one thing we do at the school is we actually show the guys how their scopes are performing. And a lot of times guys have found out that their scopes are junk and they need to go back to their department and say, hey, I need a new scope. And obviously that's up to admin whether or not they can afford to do it. But you go out there and shoot the optic at the same yard line. We do it at 100-yard line, but we fully extend the turrets all the way out. So even windage, elevation, and we have a special target made that whether you're shooting mil or MOA, it has the markings on the target already. So we'll tell the guys come up 10 mils, shoot a 5-round group, come up 20 mils or 15 mils, shoot a 5-round group, and so on. And as long as your groups are hitting on the target where they're supposed to, then your rifle's tracking. A lot of times what you see is the elevation's right, but it won't actually track straight up. It'll start veering off to the left or veering off to the right. Well, now you got a compensated wind in that you don't need.
Right.
So, and that's just based off of the actual adjustments in the scope.
You do that at 100?
Yeah. I've got it.
You've never offered that up to me. I'm a little offended. That's
slow learner. So.
Oh, there we go. That's it.
Bam.
I knew it was coming.
Sometimes.
I like
the problem
this guy,
when you've
Sean.
known people for too long. They just
I like this guy.
treat you like dirt. Let's go a little bit into the ammo thing. That's a hot. That's just as hot now as precision shooting in general. Let's talk a little bit about factory ammunition and hand loading, because you're doing hand loading now, and you have for a number of years. I mean, they got an awesome
early 90s
setup for hand. It's beautiful.
What do you use? What do you use? Dillon? Do you use Hornady? Who do you use?
For my rifles, I've been using an RCB, just a standard rock checker.
Right.
I like to get one of the Forester. I don't know what the actual model number is, but the Forester press, those are pretty nice. But I've got 2 rock checkers I've used. I've used them for years and gotten good results out of them. So that's
single
what
stage
I use.
or
Single stage, yeah.
Okay.
Now handguns, we use Dillons. We have 3 Dillons on the bench that we use for handguns. But obviously, handgun ammo is not near as precise as precision rifle.
Right.
So.
Right.
Factory is good stuff. Do you feel like people need to? What's a guy? Does he need to load or just rely on factory? How do you draw that line? Because you're going to go into F class, so I'm assuming you're going to be loading your own stuff. Which makes
absolutely.
sense.
A lot of times it depends on a couple of things for me. One, the shooter's ability. If you're just starting out, factory ammo is going to do you good. It's going to take you a while before you're going to start out shooting factory ammo. If you got the seasoned guy, like yourself, obviously, that
is a slow learner.
Yeah, I mean, he's a slow learner, but
That's why I'm seasoned, because it took me a very long time.
he does
to
seem to
learn.
listen sometimes. So, but his skill levels came up dramatically in the last couple of years, and he's starting to notice the difference between factory ammo and precision, hand loaded ammo. So once you start shooting and notice that rounds aren't really going where they should be, you didn't pull that round. You have that one flyer that's just
Right.
where
That
the hell
drives
that
you
come
nuts.
from, right?
Yeah.
That's ammo. If your gun's a good solid build, that's going to be an ammo issue, and then that's when you kind of need to start looking into reloading and hand loading your own ammo, and that's kind of what I tell guys. If you're new, just shoot the factory ammo because it's easier for you. Have more expense in going out buying equipment, buying what components do you buy. After a while, you'll start getting into shooting groups and getting frustrated, and that's when you want to move on to start reloading.
Can we talk about your 308 load? I think you're running this stupid heavy bullets for the. Is this right? Can we?
Yeah, I don't care. It's not a secret.
People got their secret recipes. I don't want to give that stuff out, but give me some information on this thing.
So I'm always one that's kind of likes to push the envelope, I guess, as far as shooting things that make people look at me like, well, what are you doing? That's not going to work. And including my dad sometimes. A lot of times he's like, yeah, that's not going to work, but go ahead. So this kind of the same way. I bought some Sierra tipped Match King 195 grains that I was planning on shooting in the 300 Win Mag.
Uh-huh.
And I was sitting there loading 308s, and I'm like, well, why am I stuffing these 175 grain bullets with a lower BC ballistic coefficiency in the case when I have these 195s over here that they're the same caliber, that same twist as my Win Mag, so why not put them in there and see what it does? So I did. I loaded up some 308s with 195 grain tipped Match Kings with some 4064 powder, and went out and shot them and had great results out of them.
Really?
So yeah, I got a 1 in 10 twist. It's a 20-inch barrel. Like I say, it was my work gun, so it was a short barrel. Muzzle velocity is about 2,500, but it's still 1,000 yards, just retaining velocity better than the 175s.
Wow.
So I think I sent you a text with
you
from
did.
my applied ballistics program.
Yeah.
And it's about 1,250 still at 1,000 yards from the 195s. So it's pretty good.
That's impressive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Scott, you got any questions or anything?
You touched on some of the other things that you're doing at Saltzman, but the other than the name, the key term there is Gun Works. So, we see Sean and I talk about it all the time as far as what people are doing to their pistols,
Right.
machining work, slide work. We see the grip texturing, we see all that stuff, Cerakote. Basically, with the industry or the market softening the way it has, just for your general firearms enthusiast. Kind of what I've noticed is people are wanting to not necessarily want to buy new guns, but they're wanting to make the guns that they already have bought cooler than what they were when they bought them. Right. So what we see a lot for pistols is, like I said, the slide work, the texturing, triggers, and everything that comes along with it. Do you guys do that? Do you have the bandwidth to do it? Is it something you're like, yeah, we can do it, but we're really concentrating on our chassis, on our long range stuff. So other than the bolt gun, the precision stuff, what else is in Saltzman Gun Works wheelhouse?
Right. We still do a lot of 1911 work, and we pretty much do anything you want to a 1911. There's not usually anything we say no to a 1911.
Okay.
We do a little bit of Glock work. That everybody makes parts for a Glock, so you pretty much work on a Glock yourself. But if you want a slide machined, we can do that. We don't machine the factory Glock slides. You have to buy an aftermarket slide just because the factory Glock slides seem to be a little bit harder to machine.
Right.
We don't have CNC, so if we had CNC, it wouldn't be an issue.
So everything you turn by hand.
Right. We have 2 manual mills, 1 manual lathe, and we did just buy a CNC lathe.
Wow.
But Sean was actually kind of there with us when we got the CNC.
Yeah, I made him spend all that money.
Yeah. The funny part was
that's my payback.
we bought it, went and picked it up, took it to the shop, set it, got it all hooked up and stuff. And the dad and I literally looked at each other and go, yeah, how do you turn this thing on? Well,
Right.
we didn't
Well,
know.
I mean, but that in itself, we can go on to another hour and 42 seconds
Right.
on just the processes behind it. This whole time I was assuming everything was, not everything, but what you guys were doing, just seeing the stuff that Sean has from SGW was CNC'd.
No.
That is super impressive.
Yeah, everything we do is done on a manual machine. We are starting to get the CNC lathe up and going, which is going to help us speed up production times as far as with barrels and truing up receivers and stuff like that. We will transition over to the CNC lathe. It's just you got to have tooling and you got to get the experience to do it. So until we get that, we're not going to take somebody's gun and stick it on there. We're not going to learn on somebody else's gun.
Start chopping.
Start
chopping. Yeah,
we're going to keep using what we use. And
I live in Geneseo on the Illinois side, in Springfield and Rock River, and everybody's right there.
Right.
And there is a machine. There's a machine shop there that does a lot of stuff, for a lot of different companies in the area, and just watching them work is, it's an art.
Mm-hmm.
It's an art, especially like you said, when you're starting to hand turn things. It's that's something that takes a level of craftsmanship, quality control, attention to detail in itself that is shooting.
Right.
You mentioned earlier that precision shooting is consistency is key. Right. You do the same thing every single time leading up to and after the shot breaks.
Right.
And those machining, those manufacturing processes are, I think it's something that people aren't lost by, but I don't think they fully appreciate what goes into everything, making a gun shoot 0.1 or whatever those, whatever your groups were. So that's super impressive. So, where can people find you?
We're on Facebook, Instagram. We don't have a website yet. That's something we gotta. We're two-man shop, so we gotta work into getting a website. We will have a website eventually, but right now we don't have one.
So what's your Facebook?
Facebook is Saltzman Gun Works Incorporated, and same thing with Instagram. So
okay, just at Saltzman.
Yep.
Saltzman Gun Works Incorporated.
Yep.
Incorporated spelled out or just INC?
INC.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
On the Brass Tacks website, Best Build Ever is an article on the Saltzman Gun Works build on the R2 chassis.
Yep.
You might want to check that out. What we'll also try to do is we'll try to put up a video of the R2 chassis. We've got a 110-pound young lady firing a Win Mag with the chassis.
Nice.
Yeah, so just kind of proof how it works.
With and without a muzzle brake.
Yeah.
She did both.
Yeah. So as I close, I can just say, do I know these guys? Yes, I've known them for years. But again, understand I'm so particular about gun stuff just because I haven't been burned on a lot of things. And I think a lot of gun guys have this mentality. They need everything to be right. These guys do a solid build, and they will not let things go out the door that aren't right. So that said, Randy Saltzman, thanks for coming on.
Yep. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, man.
And you're listening to the Narrative Unsuppressed Gun Talk Radio.
We're out of here, guys.